Hello friends, welcome to Easyshots learning channel. Today's video is about redemption of preference shares. In this video, first we will understand what is preference shares, types of preference shares, and what legal provisions the company must undertake in case of redemption of preference shares. Now first we will understand what are preference shares. Preference shares has preferential right not only in payment of dividend but also in repayment of capital as compared to equity shares. Now there are two types of preference shares that we are considering here. One is redeemable preference share. These are those preference shares whose redemption or repayment is done after 5 to 10 years. Another category is irredeemable preference shares whose redemption is not possible during the lifetime of the company. Now, under redeemable preference shares, we put two categories of companies. One is companies engaged in infrastructure projects. For example, Hindustan Construction Limited, DLF Limited. These companies deal in those projects which completes after 10 to 15 years. So, the redemption of these companies' preference shares may be after 20 years or before 30 years. But in case of those companies who are not engaged in infrastructure projects, these companies must redeem their preference shares within a period of 20 years from issue of preference shares. Now, another category of preference share is irredeemable preference share according to Companies Act 2013. Now, no company limited by shares issue irredeemable preference shares to the public. Now, when we are talking about redemption of preference shares, some important legal provisions that every company has to take care. These provisions are covered under section 55 of Companies Act 2013. Previously, it is covered under section 80 of Companies Act 1956. The first and important provision is no such share can be redeemed by the company unless they are fully paid up. It means partly paid up shares are not redeemed by the company. First, company has to convert these partly paid up shares into fully paid up shares, then they redeem these shares. So here we take some example. 10% redeemable preference share at the rate of rupees 10 each. 8 rupees is the called up and paid up capital. It means the company does not call the final call. So on 10,000 shares, final call amount is rupees 2 per share. So the company first call, final call and receive the final call, then do the redemption process. Now when we do the final call, the installment account is debited and share capital account is credited, and our entry is 10% redeemable preference share final call account debit to 10% redeemable preference share capital account with the amount of 20,000. Now when the company received the final call amount, the bank balance of the company is increased and our entry is bank account is debited and 10% preference share final call account is credited with the amount of 20,000. Our next provision is shares may be redeemed either out of profits, that is free reserves, or out of fresh issue. Now, when the preference shares are redeemed out of profits or free reserves, this out of profits means those profits or reserves which are available for distribution of dividend. Now, you must learn these reserves which are included in out of profits. They are number 1, general reserve, P&L account or surplus account credit balance because debit balance is the loss, dividend equalization reserve account, reserve fund, insurance fund and workman compensation fund. These reserves are included in out of profits. We use these reserves, but some reserves are not included in out of profits. They are security premium reserve account, share forfeited account, profit prior to incorporation. It means if any company earn any profit before date of incorporation or formation of company, that profit is a capital profit. That profit is not included in out of profits. Another reserve is capital reserve. Now there are two reserves. One is development rebate reserve. Another one is investment allowance reserve. These reserves are used in out of profits if it is asked in question. If in a question it is said that these reserves are used in out of profits for redemption of preference shares, then we may use these reserves. Now another important provision is in case of redemption of preference shares out of profits, then the amount equal to nominal capital of preference share is transferred to a new account, that is capital redemption reserve account, CRR account. It means if the company has sufficient cash and they do redemption out of profits, then the reserves that the company use for this purpose is transferred to new reserve account, that is CRR account. We take an example to understand this point. Here nominal capital of preference share is 10 lakh rupees. We have a general reserve of 7 lakh and in surplus account we have a balance of 5 lakh rupees. Now when we transfer these reserves amount to CRR account, they are debited and CRR account, that is capital redemption account, is credited. No, so we use 7 lakh from general reserve and from surplus account we use the remaining amount, that is 3 lakh rupees. So our entry is general reserve account is debited with 7 lakh, surplus account is debited with 3 lakh and the amount is transferred to capital redemption reserve account, that is 10 lakh rupees. Next provision is when the preference shares are redeemed out of profits or out of fresh issue, then if the preference shares are redeemed on premium, then this premium is adjusted through out of profits or out of security premium reserve account. But the first preference that you all have to take care of this thing is the first preference is given to out of profits, and if there is no amount in out of profits or free reserves, then you may use security premium reserve account for redemption of preference shares on or at premium. Now in our next video we understand what are the methods of redemption of preference shares. Basically there are 4 methods. One is if the company has sufficient cash balance, then we do the redemption by using out of profits, that is free reserves, and if company does not have sufficient cash, then the company issue equity shares, collect cash from the public, and this cash is used for the redemption of preference shares. And if company has some cash or some reserves, then the company use partly out of profits and partly out of fresh issue. And the last method is conversion method, where the preference shares are converted into equity shares. In our next video we understand these methods and what are the general entries that we do in each method along with examples. So friends, if you like this video, please share this video and subscribe the channel. Thank you so much. Have a nice day.